Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are a week late because stuff came up. We were supposed to do this last week when it actually came out, but
It's all
better late than
planned.
we better late than never. So why did we do an episode about the Kung Fu Panda series? Because there's a new Netflix show called Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight, which came out last week. So we figured, you know what? It's time to talk about Kung Fu Panda because Kung Fu Panda is awesome. And now we are here to talk about the new show, which is very sadly not so awesome. Oh,
Okay, yeah.
if you can take it from Wolf's sounds, um, say not so awesome. I won't say it's terrible. I won't say it's awful, but it's not the best thing either. Like it's very much. If you had to ask me, is it good or not? I'll probably lean more towards the not good. But there are moments in there that are good. So it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah,
What
I-
would you say?
I'd agree for the most part. Like, it started off very much not grasping me. I'm not getting hooked into this at all. As it went on, I started to enjoy it a bit more and a bit more. And towards the last, oh, guys,
Yeah.
excuse me.
I,
Allergies, they're fun. Ugh.
okay.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
get you.
I would say the last quarter, maybe a bit less, started to, in my opinion, get really good and really start to grasp me. And I'll admit, like, the last episode made me a bit more interested. Like, all right, maybe second season will start to get better and I'll enjoy it more. Like, your
You know,
last
we're not in
episode,
the
I'm a
we're
bit more
not in the
interested, but
spoiler section. Yeah, we're not in the spoiler section yet. But the one thing I will say, and I don't think we won't go into details, but it's obviously one of those shows that were the first season. I guess it's more build up
yeah.
for stuff that will come next. We'll get more, more details when we get to spoilers. But yeah, when we reach the end, and it's like, oh, it's one of those sequel bait in the first season.
I mean, it's
You,
not that
but you know
bad though
something to give
here.
credit to give credit where it's due. Though it's not as terrible as some other shows, and something to get us out of the way, no matter, even though I said the show is, if I have to compare this to another show based on a DreamWorks movie, which I really like, this isn't The Nine Realms. Like, it's at least way more watchable than The Nine Realms. Not that it's saying much, but I'll give it the credit where it's due.
Fair.
Actually, since you said, do you agree with this or do you want to argue?
No, no.
Just
I mean, I honestly, I like the Nine Realms. I think it's okay. But if you asked me which of these would I be more interested in sitting back down to watch again, probably this one.
I'll
So
say
far,
this.
that could change in the future, but so far, for a first
Look,
comparing first seasons, I think this one wins out more.
yeah. But something, when you say which one you would sit down to watch more, so it's weird because I'll probably sit down and watch The Nine Realms again before this, but that's because I'm a masochist who likes making fun of things he doesn't like. So there's that. But in terms of what's technically better than the Dragon Knight takes the cake, for as much as that. But regarding the show itself, so I guess you could say we were both like in the middle about it, something like a middle.
Yeah, it's very much one of those. If it never came out, I wouldn't miss it. If I never saw it, I wouldn't miss it. Having seen it,
Yeah,
it's all right. I can't say you'll have a bad time, right? There's much, much worse out there, but there's a lot better you could spend your time with too.
And like I'd say, like at least I finished it, which is a lot more than I can say for Legends of Awesomeness. So there's that. And for all intents and purposes, Jack Black still got it. Like he's the best part of the show. Poe is the best part of the show. For the most part.
I
You're
agree. I,
silent.
I think I think
I
there's
mean,
a few characters
it
that
sounds like you really need to think about what I'm saying
I
because it's
did.
like,
I
where
did.
do I agree with this?
I
Am
did.
I sure?
That's not to say Jack Black and his character in the character Poe is bad or anything, but I think there was a few characters in the show that I saw that, all right, they were pretty good. They can compare to some degree.
I mean,
One or two.
honestly, like the new one, like obviously, I'm not sure which thumbnail you used, but you can see the new main character Blade in the thumbnail, and like I overall wasn't a fan of hers, and
I'm not referring to
will
her.
yeah, okay. But her I didn't care for, and we'll get to why as we move along. But there were some which were all right, I guess. And again, I guess talking about the characters more will be in the spoilers, but there is one non-spoilery thing I want to talk about, and that's the animation. Now, for the record, on the off chance someone who was an animator on this show or an animator in general is listening to this, know that whatever I'm saying regarding the animation is not targeted towards you. I know this is not something that's under your control, but I know it's probably a decision made from higher ups, and I'm going to criticize the higher ups for it. But the actual animators, I'm sure you did the best with what you had, and I hope that you'll get nothing but good projects moving forward in the industry. And that's exactly the budget. What, like, when you think of the Kung Fu Panda movies, what's one of the things that's coming to your head? The animation in the fight scenes, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And what made those fight scenes and that animation so spectacular is that they really use the fact that it is animation. You can do anything you want to. You can have a panda do kung fu, and it would look like it can exist in this universe because you can move a panda to do like this. You're not bounded by reality, and the way they also use like a squash and stretch really makes those fight scenes incredible. And we talked about this in the previous episode. Now, that's all well and good when you have a feature budget. But obviously, this show doesn't have a feature budget. And considering a lot of the budget probably went on Jack Black and whoever the actress that voices Blade is. I know she's a name. I don't know. So
It'd be
when the budget,
Rita Ora is her name.
Mhm. I think she's a name I don't recognize her as anything, but the
I'm
point
not very
is
familiar
that
with her work either.
yeah, but the point is those are two big names, and already the budget for the show goes really high when you bring these two into the show. And not a lot of that is for the animation, but at the same time, why stick with CG for this? Because Netflix budgets can only take you so far. And the action sequences felt really rough and really like they want to copy the movies. They want to do what the movies do, but they can. And it was very noticeable. It was very like they're trying to be fast, but they just come across as slow and they're really iffy. Like there are some moments where I actually felt like the animation is stuttering because it can't keep up with what they wanted to do. And I know, and like it really took me out because I see what they're trying to do there, and it's not bad animation in terms of TV. I get it. You don't have the budget, But this is one of those moments where I think someone should have stopped and said, "Wouldn't wouldn't it be better if we made this 2D? Because obviously we can't replicate what the movies did, so let's try and find ways around it with what we do have." And it bugged. Every fight scene was literally messed with my eyes at some point.
I didn't mind it as much personally. It didn't bother me as
So
much, but I did notice it. But I looked at it from the perspective of, hey, this isn't the movie, so I can't be. I didn't feel like I
yeah,
could be too harsh on it, but I do get where you're coming
and
from,
again,
and I don't disagree
and
with you.
again, that's not on the animators. That's not on the budget. I know that these are constraints, and you have to work with what you have. But at the same time, some producer had to have seen this, right? Some producer should have thought at some point, maybe we can change something. The Crude is a CG movie, but that has a 2D show. Why can Kung Fu Panda be 2D?
That's fair.
We have 2D sequences in the show itself too. So wouldn't it be amazing to have a show look like this?
I would have loved that person. I think that would have been very interesting.
Yeah,
I agree.
so do that. And it wouldn't look as good as the 2D animation that you have in the movies because again, budget, but it would look so much better.
I mean,
And
it'd
you
definitely
can,
be more unique and
yeah,
possibly like more representative of like that, Chinese mythology stuff and everything they have going for it. It'd definitely
which
be
why not
interesting at the
do?
very least. Yeah.
Which,
Like,
yeah, why not do it? But for what it's worth, it's like it's not the worst thing in the world, but there are just some moments where it was really soaring on the eyes for me. But
so
that, yeah,
small
what
side
do you got?
tangent. Would you like to know what
Mhm.
I hope I'm pronouncing her name right? Rita Ora. Would you like to know what she's been in?
Well, if you're asking me, this is gonna be good. Hit me.
So she's mostly a singer, it seems. She's done a lot of different singing stuff, and she's been on some different
Okay.
shows, but the movies were the things that really stood out to me. So she was Dr. Anne Laurent in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Oh, okay. So I've seen one thing with her in it before this.
The
Good
other
to
thing you may not
know.
have seen, but I'm fairly certain you're familiar with it. Do you know who, if I say the name Mia Gray,
Not sure what it is. I
if I
am not
say
ringing them.
50 Shades of Grey,
Oh no! Oh no!
she's
Oh
Mia
no!
Gray
Oh
in
no!
50 Shades of Grey. So,
Well,
and that's pretty much majority of her credits right there. She's not had a lot of movie credits.
all I'm going to say is that something. 50 Shades of Grey would have been way better if Jack Black was in it. He was in it. That's all
I
I'm gonna say
I
on the
don't
matter.
I don't know. I don't think, I mean,
Don't lie to yourself. It would have been better by technicality because it would have been funny intentionally if he were in
I
it.
think it would have been funny unintentionally because it's Jack Black, but also I'm not sure he could have saved those movies, but I
Oh,
don't disagree with you, but
you need to rewrite them to fit Jack Black. That there's this
should you
stupid
though?
dialogue, and then
Should you
and
though?
then
Maybe
it
you should just let him do his
yeah.
thing.
That's what I'm saying. Rewrite it to have him do his own thing. That he'll just make fun of anyone in the movie. That would be amazing.
But yeah, that's what she's been in. I kind of feel sorry
Great.
for her.
Yeah, I like. Let's say you mentioned two movies, and the one that I and the one of the two movies that I watched with her in it and I found enjoyable is the one where Pikachu sounds like Deadpool. That's saying something. For the record, Detective Pikachu is a fine one. Don't get me wrong.
The only other movies she's really in is Fast and Furious 6, apparently, and
Ah,
Southpaw, and a movie called Spivs, and a movie called Twist. And that's literally it.
well, Fast and the Furious is familiar with, I'll tell you that much. But okay, back to the Dragonite. Anything else non-spoilery you want to bring up? Because I think the best way to start this is actually delve into spoilers. Okay. You know something? I'll say this. consider this a mini spoiler because I'm talking about the premise here, and nothing too big would be given. But if you want to stop the spoil, if you don't want any kind of spoilers for this, so our recommendation is it's not the worst thing ever, but it's also not necessarily good. Watch at your own risk if you're really interested.
I wouldn't say on risk, but yeah, like, there's other stuff you could go watch and not feel like you wasted your time. This, you might come away from it feeling like you wasted your time, unless you're like a huge fan of Kung Fu Panda and you just have to see it all. And I'll admit, I'm not as familiar with the other Kung Fu Panda shows. I know there's like,
Yeah, like I'm saying, Legends of Awesomeness is like that. The Dragon Knight is better than that, but the thing is that Legends of Awesomeness, I've only seen a few episodes, and we didn't really get my attention. Paths of Destiny,
I have no
I know
idea.
exists. I haven't watched it though. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that one too. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's all there is.
So
So yeah, like I've not heard a lot about Paths of Destiny either, so I cannot say if this is better than that or worse. And Legends of Awesomeness is the only one I have any familiarity with as well. And yeah, I'd agree, it's definitely better than that one. To be fair to Legends of Awesomeness, it was very much aimed at young kids,
mhm.
but so is Rescue Riders, and I love the shit out of that.
The,
I love the
that's
shit out of Rescue Riders probably for the wrong reasons,
yeah,
but
but I think also though, with Legends of Awesomeness, you kind of get younger kids or not, it's a spin-off. You can ignore this in the grand scheme of things, and you can ignore Dragon Eye too. I'm not saying that you can, but when the main point of this show is that Jack Black comes back, I'd assume people might have more of an expectations of this being like an actual sequel. And that's something, that's like you can acknowledge of us and saying, it's something that exists. You can ignore it. But when you have Jack Black's name attached, then even if the show doesn't necessarily have that or aims to be that, people would probably still be a bit more interested or inclined to check that one out because that's like the main movies. You get
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah. Well, regarding this, so here's the thing. Again, minor spoilers from this point on, and so if you don't care for spoilers, listen on. If you care, then you can stop now. If you don't mind, minor things. But the basic premise of this show is that Poe has to travel through China to stop those bandits with the help of like a stick in the mud knight, which is Blade, who we mentioned. Let me think. A stick in the mud character who doesn't really appreciate Poe's, happy-go-lucky personality and his, excited nature. Sounds familiar in this universe?
No, not at all.
You're joking, right? I know you're joking. You have to be joking.
Can't think of anyone.
Tigress.
Nah, not at all. Totally different. This character is a bear, HC.
You can make her a freaking butterfly. I don't care. It's the
I'm
same
joking.
personality. I know you're joking, but it's like, but if people are actually going to use this as a defense, no, I'm sorry. That's Tigress's character, and yes, I know that throughout the movies she grows more as a friend to Poe, definitely, but it doesn't mean that their personalities always match each other's, and it does lead to conflicts between them in both the second and third movies, even if they're good friends. And putting the both of them on a journey together, and if let's say that Tigers would also have like a personal history with the bad guys like Blade does, that would change things. And yeah, and for the record, I know that it can be Tigress because if you get Jack Black, you will have to get Angelina Jolie as well, and she costs, I don't know, gazillions. So I get that. But at the same time, no other character from the movies is in this show. And again, I get it. Big name actors. You can get all of them. Perfectly understandable. But you know something? I don't care. We have Race to the Edge, which which has half of the cast from How to Train Your Dragon come back. The others are not the same actors, and in some of them, it's really noticeable that it's actors from the movies. So if that can exist and nobody has a problem, why not do the same here?
Some people charge too much, man.
And that's what I'm saying, though. You don't have to get the celebrities. You can have Jack Black Repo and then get a sound alike to be Tigress, get a sound like to be Shifu or something like, because the only characters coming back from the movies are Poe and Mr. Ping, and I love both of them, right?
Mm.
And those two are Mr. Ping is still James Hunt. So
I mean, that man,
but
he always, like, anything he plays in, he's like, if I'm that character, I'm that character. I don't think he's never not done that.
yeah,
That man is just lovely and wonderful. James Hong, I love you.
Yeah, fun fact that I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once a few hours before recording this. And he's in that movie, and he's psychotic. He's not Mr. Pink, but he's wonderful in that movie. So wanted to point that out. But anyway, yeah, you have a character like Blade in the Kung Fu Panda universe. Even if you can get Angelina Jolie to voice her, use her, because I think it will actually put more stakes in the story. And so there's that.
I disagree simply because, like, and this would get into more heavier spoilers, and we'll wait just a bit because it's not too far away. Unless you just want to jump into it.
I guess we can. So heavier spoilers from 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. So from this point forward, we're spoiling very big details about the show.
Yeah.
I think it works with Blade because, the big introduction here is that she's a knight from England, right?
Yeah.
And, we're introducing the idea of England now. And, that's a thing, not just China with animals, but also England with animals. But then you think about it a little bit, and it's a little bit awkward that you have, an English character going around kind of having this big quest in China. A little bit weird, but then also it's
something.
Also, it works.
That's something. Hold on. That's something I actually thought of. Like, okay, you want to expanding the world with saying that it's not just China with animals. There are other countries in this world. Something. Not the worst idea on paper. Not at all. I just think England is a bit of a stretch to go with.
Not really. My thing was like, English character coming along and the quote unquote Chinese character, right, wants to be like, oh, I want to learn everything about you and be your page and your squire and become a knight, and it's like she has no interest in the Chinese culture of it all, and it's like
again, it's one of those. There's potential there. There's an idea here. I just bring, how you say when you say like something and something together at last. Like, this is what it is to me. Like, China and England together at last. It doesn't. Again, it's like we skipped a few parts. You get what I mean?
I get you, but also these two countries are very linked with one another in their history to some degree. So it's not like...
That's true. No,
it's not unheard of. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. It's not because I think I was talking about this with a friend, briefly, and there was this option I thought of, why not do Japan? Then you can have it with samurais. It's basically the same idea. Obviously samurais and knights is a different mythology, different rules, different everything, but same weapons, say, you could still make it a sword. You can still make it the same idea of new fighting technique that the person needs to learn. Why not, play it in parts? You
My
get what I
argument
mean?
to that is that I don't think they would be allowed to. I don't think this would be do as well within China if it was China and Japan.
That's fair, I suppose.
I
Okay,
don't think
that's
those
fair.
two countries are very fond of one another. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments below, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't think those two countries are very fond of one another. And if that was the case, I don't think this would do as well in China. And that's a big market, and Netflix and DreamWorks
Yeah,
probably want that market.
yeah, especially with Kung Fu Panda is the subject because but okay, so we have this. So yeah, so anyway, we have this new character from England. You were starting to see before we diverged.
Yeah, she's from England. She is a knight, and she is here tracking down two weasels, Klaus and
Yeah.
Veruca Dumont, who are big criminals, and she's after them.
By the way, I'm sorry for tangenting again, but tell me that Veruca doesn't look like the Light Fury on drugs.
Can't agree with you. No, I didn't see that at all.
How?
You're on your
It's the
own.
same. No, I'm not on my own. I had other people confirm this to me. She looks like the
Then you
Night
and those
Fury,
other people
the
are
Light Fury
weird.
on drugs.
She looked like a weasel.
Oh, okay. I guess someone needs to see two pictures side by side and tell me I'm. But that's for later. So yeah,
Maybe
we have.
I don't know. I don't see it. Like looking at her and looking at and thinking of the Light Fury, I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it.
Maybe it's the neck. I don't know. Maybe it's the neck and the shape of the head that kind of throws me out. I don't know. Anyway, move back
Maybe.
to
All right. Looking at that and thinking of that, maybe. That's a hard maybe, but maybe.
like a maybe. So back to the show. So yeah, we have Cloud and Veruca. Honestly, not as interesting a villains as they could have been.
I'm just thinking about it more and more, and I can't. I'm damn you. Fuck you.
Yeah, you see,
It's getting
I'm
harder
right.
to unsee it, but also fuck you. It's you're right. It's the neck. Fuck you.
I'll take it. I'll well.
As far as villains go, they're not awful, but they're not like I don't think they're villains that can carry a show very well.
They
feel like they feel like they would be the we're the smaller villains that build up to the true big bad villain, right?
Yeah, they are, for lack of a better term, they're not as good as that character, but like the Zuko to the Fire Lord or the Zuko to Azura or something like that. Like
yeah,
there's someone way more evil waiting later down the road.
Yeah, like they have good moments. They're not terrible. It's just that these don't feel like, and what the show pretty much purports them as, the big bad. It's what it seems like they are.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of throws me off with them a little is that they are given this backstory which is supposed to mirror them with Poe. The fact that they're mages and they were they were kind of shamed in their country because yada yada yada. Her mage doesn't work if it's not the full moon and stuff. Okay, fair. So they're trying to kind of mirror this with Poe not being the dragon warrior anymore. And
yeah,
yes,
we should mention, like, the first episode is basically this big thing of, Poe tries to save the day and he fucks it up because he's out of practice. Oh no, this is the first episode. We're in big spoilers, so we might as well get to it now.
But before this, I do just want to finish the one thing, and that they're trying to mirror them with with what Poe is going through in his journey, and kind of have that parallel. And it's like, okay, you have a good idea there, but the thing is that you're not really doing anything, like, because Poe has at least a reputation, he built himself, not that he built himself, but he had credit. He had fights he won under his belt. He accomplished things. We don't really know what these two accomplished, besides the fact that they are mages and they were kind of dicks. That's really all we know about them.
Well, you learn more as the story goes
Yeah,
on.
you
Like
learn
you
more,
learn that
but
they killed Blade's brother, right?
yeah, but it's not necessarily contributing to what made them villains.
Fair.
So yeah, them killing Blade's brother is another story, and we'll get there. But yeah, so episode 1, Poe. So Poe, for one, I know it's a stupid nitpick, but why the fuck did they call it a Dragon Master?
Because he's a master now. I don't
Uh,
know.
it's just, how much can I put faith in this show when they get such a permanent thing from the movies wrong? And it's not like,
I don't feel like they
and
got
you
it
say,
wrong. I feel like they just chose to call him the Dragon Master because he's like mastered everything now. So he's a
and
master
I don't know,
himself now.
yeah, but at the same, well, for one, a lot of people argue that he was already a master by the end of the first movie, still called the Dragon Warrior. And like, if this is from Paths of Destiny, then okay, bad on me for not watching that show. But if it's not from Paths of Destiny, then it's just such a little detail, which you can say, oh, little detail, nitpick. But that's the thing; it's a little detail, but it kind of goes a long way when you keep hearing Dragon Master and it doesn't sound right in the ear. It's the Dragon Warrior.
It's Dragon Master now. The Dragon
Well,
Warrior is
fuck
dead.
you. I know I'm going to keep calling it the Dragon Warrior because that's what it is.
Disrespectful to our Dragon Master, HC.
Yeah, actually, you know something? We do have a Dragon Master. His name is Hika Perendez Hadek III from the How to Train Your Dragon franchise.
No, he
But
gave
we are not
dragons up,
doing
so he can't be a master anymore.
no, but we're not talking about How to Train Your Dragon. We're talking about Kung Fu Panda. So Dragon Warrior it is. Anyway, so Poe is going on a journey of self-discovery, I guess.
No,
And
he's going on a
throughout that
journey to eat food. That's it.
Yeah. And
that's what he went on his journey for. To eat food.
You're right. Yeah, and then when after he gets stuck in a closet because oops, he has to stop, Cloud and Veruca, right?
Yeah,
Veruca's
Klaus and Veruca.
Klaus and Veruca. So he has to stop them from stealing the Infinity Gauntlet. I think that's what it is. But then he messes up because he's a bit out of touch. And that causes the Emperor to ban him from being the Dragon Master and shame him all throughout China.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
This is what made me feel like, maybe they're going to set the Emperor of China up as like the big bad villain who Klaus and Veruca are rooting for or like working for or something. Like, maybe he's going to be the big bad.
And in a sense, I think they try to set up that like everyone is kind of in a free-for-all. That
yeah,
it's like
that's what they did, but especially by the end, that's more or less what it was. But it just like the Emperor's just kind of a non-thing. It's just this is here to cause Poe grief essentially and just make things harder. But again, like this is the dude who saved China 3 times now. Like I think he's
really even and in Paths of Destiny maybe even the Fall. But like you can. I know, and it's like it's annoying that something. Have him lose a bit of the reputation. Okay.
Like absolutely. He's hurting now. Like right, and it's not as good for him. People aren't as happy with him right now. But
yeah, like and also
it's Poe. He's fucked up so many times and made it better. Like you have to at some point realize, he'll get it. It'll work. It'll work out.
And I think this is the part where it really made it apparent that the other characters are not in the show, because no way Shifu or the rest of the Furious Five would actually fucking stand for this. Shifu would go to the Emperor himself and kick his ass. So and again, I know we can cast the celebrities, so don't. Get sound alikes. You've done this before.
The thing that got me, right, is after this, I believe it's, episode 2, we go into episode 2, right? There's not a lot that happens in episode 1 other than we get to see this other character, which is Blade, introduced, and Poe thinks she's a part of the thieves, but she isn't. And that's pretty much it. He just fails. They get a hold of this big, powerful gauntlet and go around destroying cities, essentially. And then episode 2, she comes in. Poe eventually gets her to agree to let him be her apprentice and travel with her. And in episode 2, we have this thing of that really stood out to me as something that I just didn't like. And we have Mr. Ping comforting Poe, which is fine, but it's like, where's his other dad at? That's the thing that I liked about the third movie was these two were basically his dads together, and they were willing to just hey fellow dad, we're gonna be there for our son together. And it's just like they're at the Panda village is what it looks like to me, but none of the pandas are there, and his dad's just poof.
Like the biological dad, he's not there. He is not in this, and again, Powers of Destiny maybe explained this. I don't know, but
maybe.
But like again, it just feels like so much is missing. Like you start wondering, where are these characters? And I'm going to wonder where these characters are because I've seen the movies, and if I've seen and the only reason that I might have some sort of interest in that show is if I have actually seen the movies.
Again, like I'm fine if you don't show Shifu in the Furious 5 because I can, in my head say, all right, Shifu, he's probably doing I'm trying to become more like Master Oogway spirit journey stuff, and the Furious 5 probably just doing other stuff around China, doing their thing. But to not show at least both of his dads, the biological Panda dad and Mr. Ping being dads to him and trying to help him out in his moment of need, just feels kind of Like, no, don't get me wrong, Mr. Ping's cool. He's a great dad, but it would have been nice, I think, to see his other dad too.
And actually, one of my favorite part of the show actually is when the Emperor tries to ask Mr. Ping where Poe is, and Mr. Ping literally rips him a new one and tells them, "I'll never tell you where my son is." That's a great moment. This is like.
I love that moment because it's really sweet, but it's also really great comedy because he's just out there like, you'll have to kill me in all these horrible, horrible ways before I ever tell you anything, and then revive me and kill me again before I ever tell you anything. You're like, no, we didn't want to do that.
No, I know that for one it's funny, but also it shows how much he cares for his son, and I like that. It's funny, yes, but it also shows that this is a guy who really loves his son, and top 5 moments of this show. So, and here's another thing. So the Emperor takes Poe's title away because it makes no sense whatsoever. But what really doesn't make any sense for me is that apparently not only is the title of Dragon Warrior taken away from Poe, but now he's like a wanted fugitive.
Well, he doesn't become wanted until after the 3rd episode, at the very least. Like, he has to do more to become a wanted criminal. But the thing that got me is that, we start blaming him for doing, like, destroying the other towns and everything as well. And it's like, the guards literally saw the people who stole the gauntlet and would be doing this. Why is Poe getting blamed for this?
Yeah, like, exactly.
We know who stole the gauntlet. You literally had guards see that happen. What? It feels very contrived, to be honest, right? Like, it's very much contrived aggravation and grief against Poe. And it's just like, after a certain point, you have to feel like, all right, well, the Emperor's a part of the evil plot here. He has to be. But he's not. He's just stupid.
And that really took me away, that it's like Poe didn't mess up that much than usual, and the again, he has a reputation built up to the point that he can totally fix it.
Now, at least
So
the third
like,
episode gives you this, Poe's a criminal now because he attacks Imperial Guard who are coming to take away a prisoner who was also accused of doing something they didn't do. But at least in that instance, no one
yeah, in
else
that
saw the weasels, right? Klaus and Veruca,
exactly,
to
yeah.
accuse them.
Mhm.
Granted, they still used the gauntlet and everyone knew they stole it, so everyone should kind of know what's going on there. But, details. Still yet,
Mhm.
that makes sense. And then, Poe choosing, I'm going to rescue her, rescue this hedgehog and, help out my friend Blade on this mission to try and stop, the weasels, because that's more important than my reputation, right? At least
Yes.
it's a decent enough little thing of like, hey, stopping you guys, saving the world is more important than my reputation as Dragon Master or Dragon Warrior, right? I like what they're
Mhm.
going for here. It's just the setup to get to
Again,
that point wasn't as great because I don't know, it felt
it's one of
forced to
the
make people already mad at Poe so you could have
yeah,
this moment, right?
exactly. Yes. And that's another thing that, like you said, I think there are things that are good on paper, but it's the execution that literally kills everything. Every inch of good you could have got out of it. And because because let's actually take something kind of in a bit of the episode 3. So Poe is like determined to find the guy who wrote a bunch of comic books, because apparently those comic books are based or based on something that's real,
Mm-hmm.
actual real weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the town where the other lives, but turns out that he passed. With one book set to be released, but the son, the writer's son claims that there would be no final book. There's nothing. I mean, like you can't find anything here. And then like the Poe and Blade break into the writer's room, and the son, and there's actually like this really sweet moment with the son where he says that the final issue is there, but he didn't read it because he and his father would always
That was
read the
sweet.
first draft.
That was really
Yeah, the first
nice.
draft. The first draft together, and once he reads it, that's it. He has nothing left from his father anymore. So that was a really good moment. That was a really
And
touching moment,
I felt
and
that was a good
it's
moment for
like,
Blade too, because you had Blade
yeah,
sit down with him and say, "Hey, this was my brother's sword," right? And you learn more about her in
hmm
this moment, and she
yeah,
says a sword is meant to be used to protect people and stop evil, right? And if I'd
hmm
never used it, if I never did anything with it, it would just sit there rusting away, doing no good for anyone. And
yeah.
she says like books are in the same way; they're meant to be read. That was
hmm
sweet. I
Yeah,
liked that moment. That
yeah,
was really good.
that was really
That's one of
good.
those
That was,
gems of this show.
yeah, like it's this one scene where suddenly it feels like something you'll see in Kung Fu Panda. It hits that genuine emotion that the movies would do,
Hmm.
and like and it has others, not just but in episode 3, actually there's this point where Poe wants to read about the location of one treasure, and suddenly the comic ends with a to be continued, and he goes, what, who would do that? And then actually in the show there's a to be continued.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That was actually funny. So again, it has those moments where it's like, it's there. You show that you got the spirit. It's just that you're doing nothing with it with the rest of the runtime. And it's really, but I want to bring up the good, but it's like then when you compare the good to like the contrived, oh, suddenly everyone hates Poe because he messed up once, and it really wasn't that much of a big deal considering the past. So the villains not being fully there, and Blade being boring, and later on just being a bitch. like it's you had something there. You had something.
I
I'm not
feel
mad.
like
I'm
if they would
disappointed.
have shown the weasels convincing Poe to do something and Poe not recognizing it because Poe's very gullible, that would have
Yeah.
been like
Oh,
the best way to do it, and it would have felt more genuine
there
because
you
he would have
go.
been more complicit, right?
Mhm. Yeah. If the fuck up was that they tricked him into letting him have the glove, I would have bought the entire. Okay, he's kind of no longer the Dragon Warrior. I would have done that.
I think
But as it is,
that would have helped for them as villains, and it would have helped Poe as well, and it wouldn't have felt so contrived that everyone hated him to get to that moment of okay, now he's a criminal in episode 3 because he attacked the Imperial Guard.
hmm yeah. So I guess I kind of mentioned this. So Blade. Here's the thing. Forget that she's a nut tigress. Okay, forget that. Like you said, maybe the Furious Five are out there doing other stuff to help China. Fine, I can buy that.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those. It's bullshit trying to fill in the blanks. But okay, let's buy it. Blade has nothing going for it, if you ask me. Because okay, I get it. You want to do the entire serious deadpan focus on the mission and the happy-go-lucky gullible
She's the straight man to Poe's
yeah,
wackiness.
basically. And okay, we've seen movies like this, we've
Mm-hmm.
seen this dynamic before. It can definitely work,
I
and
mean,
it
as you
also
said,
works
this
that
is Tigress and Poe, right? To a
yeah.
degree. Tigress is the straight
Mhm.
man to Poe's wackiness a lot of the time. It
Yeah.
works. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but so there's nothing wrong with the idea here. But what I think is wrong is that in every episode, it seems like she's warming up to Poe, but then in the next episode, she kind of just forgets about it because then we wouldn't have a show. And we need to have this wacky and straight clashing all the time, even though Poe shows that he's capable in many
I
times, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it in a bit because I have something to say about this. But Poe does prove himself to be useful. He does prove himself to be skillful. And then every time when it seems like Blade is starting to warm up to him, it goes back to zero in the next episode.
I feel like at least at certain points, not always, but at certain points, they do have Poe do things that like sets the scale back to a degree. So you actually feel like, all right, Poe screwed up here or did something that was, you know, too much Poe like.
But
And
then it kind of
that's why
goes back to
she's
the entire.
like,
Yeah,
not as happy with him again. So at
but
least
that but that sets it back to the contriveness of just one fuck up doesn't mean he's not capable.
no, but
And she fucks up too. She fucks up a lot, and Poe has every right to call her out for it, but he doesn't because he's too good for his own good.
but at
So
least like you can feel like is what I'm saying, right? That there's a reason for her kind of I wouldn't say resetting, but going back a step, right, in their relationship with one another and that build up, right?
mhm.
Like you at least feel like, all right, there's a reason for this to some degree.
Yeah.
Whether
Mhm.
it's overblown or not, whether it's good or not, is up for debate, absolutely. But you can at least feel like, all right, there's a reason for this. For some of it, anyways.
Sometimes,
Sometimes, I will admit.
sometimes, but that but even if there is a reason for it, the fact that they keep resetting it every episode, it's like, this is not this is not like a show that has no continuity. It is meant to have continuity.
Yeah, every
So
episode goes into the next. This is,
yes.
a whole season long story.
hmm so it's like it's kind of getting. I'm kind of getting sick of her just going back to square one in every episode, justified or not.
I agree. I won't
And
disagree with you there. It
and and then it all kind of comes, and then like it all comes crashing down. Where so she near the end of the series, there's like after they catch Veruca and Klaus,
Mm-hmm.
that like they stop at like a festival thing, and things get messy because the full moon and Veruca can escape, and then Blade is like that apparently Poe knew that it would set him back for a bit, that the festival happened, so we set him back intentionally, and she's like, you lied to me about this and everything, and then she forgives them, but then they get to the Emperor, and it turns out that she's been lying throughout the entire show, and she's actually wanted by the Queen of England.
Yeah, we find out from an actual knight who's been chasing them down, which is a deer who's an
Yeah.
actual knight from the Queen of England and everything. That Blade was lying, and she is not a knight. She's actually a criminal wanted by the Queen.
And that killed any kind of redeemable factors Blade had, in my opinion. You can't be such a hypocrite about this. Poe may have lied to her, but it was about a small thing, and honestly, say what you want about Veruca and Klaus. Like, obviously, that wasn't the part he figured it out of all the way through, but he wanted to do something nice for her as a friend. And then she reveals this little nugget that apparently she's wanted by the Queen. So, no, you don't get any merciful points here, lady. You are a bitch.
I didn't mind it as much. It didn't bother me all that much. It was an interesting twist. I definitely didn't see it coming.
I
And
didn't see it coming, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good twist. Does it make it her. No, does it make her treatment towards Poe any more justifiable? And honestly, Poe is better off without her.
I didn't mind it. Like, it didn't bother me. And I don't think, again, like, saying that, I don't think it's a bad twist either, though. I see where you're coming from. Again, I do disagree personally, but I get where you're coming from, and I get why some people won't feel that way, and it's very fair.
Yeah, it's one of those. It really depends how you just look at a situation like this, and personal experience. Being lied to, being betrayed, and everything. It really sets me off when I need to sympathize with such a big lie.
That's very fair.
Who also criticized Poe for lying about something that's so minuscule, and also something that he did for her. So it's like, I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair.
This character needs to go through a lot in order for me to care. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair. And maybe we'll get that in the coming seasons if we get those.
Well, something. I may not be on the edge of my seat to see and for the next season, but at the same time, I guess might as well finish the story because this is a very blatant cliffhanger.
I will say, going back a bit, we skipped over it. There was one character introduced that I personally really enjoyed from this season, and that was I'm going to try and remember. Yeah, Rook Minnie, the monkey who was locked away in the Lost City, who has the flame whip. I very much enjoyed her. I thought she was a lot of fun. I loved seeing her trick them both.
She's a cranky old woman, so yeah.
And I loved, that she's apparently this, she's been gone for many, many years, and she's like she's this big raider thief lady who's really good at being a thief. I loved her. I thought she was great. I also loved that in episode 6, the Lost City, like, you had Poe giving all these different, like, hey, here's some, wisdom and advice from some old masters that I know who taught me, and he's trying to pass that on to Blade and everything. And she's like, none of this makes any sense. Why is all this contradictory? I personally enjoyed that. And you saw Poe trying to teach her, like, hey, you should conserve energy and stuff like that since we're in a hot desert. and her just not agreeing whatsoever. I enjoyed that. I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, one of those,
Yeah, like she has good moments,
like Poe
definitely.
being
Yeah.
the master that he was, being trained to be and started to be in the third movie, right? I enjoyed that. That was a nice little callback, I felt. One of those good moments, I think.
And now, something, if we talked about this, let's talk about Paul himself. For the most part, is very enjoyable and he's very
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
In the movies. My problem with him, though, is that the show either nerfs him or like that the show really nerfs him for the show's benefit, because we see he's a skillful warrior, and again, but it feel, but and I think it's in the second episode where they have like this lava pit they need to cross, so he actually uses the inner peace
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and it's like, okay, and you can see his mastery through this. And also there's the point where he and Blade train, where he needs to take the glow away, and he does what he does. He uses some legit moves, but he also uses his own strength in battle, because that's the point of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You are you, and you are, and you putting yourself in there is part of the reason why you are great. That's part of the message of the movies, which I think someone might have missed, because they have this training session where he manages to get through Blade's tests, and she's just like, no, but you are not doing this like me. And I know that the point was like that she'll learn from him something as well, but it's done again. It's done wrong. It's not done well, and
Well, do
ugh.
you have an example of something you think that did it right and well?
Mm.
To
like
give
uh,
people
in ter-
something to compare.
like okay, in terms of fitting with the movie, like fitting with this message,
Either
or
that, or
something.
just a show
How would I
that did this well, or yeah, how would you have fixed it? What would you have changed in regard to that?
Okay, I would change it to, so, we know that Blade is very much, uh, supposedly training the way of the night, and she takes it very seriously. She takes, and she takes it to, like, there are rules. This is how you walk by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then, when Poe trains with her to try, in this case, like try to take the gauntlet, quote unquote, from her, he does some legit, moves there, like he flips, he uses attacks and everything, but he would also use, attacks that he kind of invented,
Mm-hmm.
because thanks to his physique, right?
Yeah.
And she's getting pissed about it because he's technically not, because not taken seriously, so and so.
Yeah, like he's not
And
doing it the right way, quote unquote,
yeah,
right?
he's not doing it, by the book, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was the point of the first movie and also the third, is that you don't have to do things by the book, because doing things your way is usually the better option. Like Poe says, there's no secret ingredient, it's just you. And in a sense, they kind of build towards the fact that Blade starts doing like some of Poe's moves herself, like he taught her,
Mm-hmm.
but they never really talk about it. They never really talk about the why and stuff. And we could have had this, like the scene with the book where we mentioned that there was like this really powerful moment, with Blade and the kid reading the book together and talking about it, where Paul could teach her, listen, I know that you come from knighthood and everything, but Kung Fu is different. And there is this thing, and people use this method to teach things. Kung Fu is in everything. Like, literally, I'm not sure if you've seen the 2010 Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith,
Mm-hmm.
but but there's this moment there where, instead of the wax on wax off kind of thing, he teaches them, like, put on your jacket, take off your jacket, and stuff like this, and he shows them that these are moves, and he teaches them, I wanted to show you that kung fu is in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Why not use something like this here? Show her that, maybe being a knight is all about, following rules and going by books and stuff, but you can kind of put some kung fu in it, and win thanks to your own strengths, not just go by something you don't even know. And it's not there. Like, the message of this franchise is ignored.
It could be something they build up to. Like, this could be something they build up to more and more as they do more seasons. Like in season 2, you see more of this. In season 3, you see more of this, right? That they build up to her becoming this character who stands on her own as this merge of different styles, right? In terms of how good she is and how she becomes better by merging these things and creating her own version of knighthood. But
could be, but
I will admit,
then it also, you will admit what?
That, you can't judge this off of something that we haven't seen yet, that may not even exist yet, and may never exist.
Maybe, but for the time being, this is what I'm given. I'm gonna judge it as it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, I can sit here and say maybe this is something they build up to in later seasons, but we don't have those later seasons yet.
Yeah, but we don't have those later seasons. That's well and good, but at the same time, I'm going to criticize something if it's not. That's fair. The hopes that if there is a season 2, maybe they'll realize the mistake. If they're not planning on it, I don't know.
That's fair.
But I bring this up not just in terms of Poe and Blade and how their connection goes, but there's this moment in the final episode where Poe actually, where he goes like head to head with Claus and Veruca, and he says, I don't need to be I don't need to be given a title to know I'm the Dragon Warrior. And he actually runs into them and punches it. And it's like, I was actually like, they remembered what the point of the movies was. Thank you for realizing that. Poe breaks his arm.
I mean, it is a super strong magical gauntlet, so...
So what happened to the inner peace? He shouldn't, I don't think people can just block cannonballs and throw them back at where they came from, but he managed to do that. He mastered
Cannonball's
chi
not
as well.
Super strong magical glove, HC. It's a cannonball. It's not magical.
What's the fucking difference? What's the point of the inner peace? When you master inner peace, everything is possible. From the movies. Don't BS me. This is not, either they missed it or they didn't care.
Super magical glove outweighs inner peace because it's super destructive.
Well, then
because
the inner
it's
peace
super
is
magical
bullshit.
gauntlet.
Then you put the inner beast.
Inner beasts are bullshit. That's right.
Well, you just put one of the core moves from the movies, which really again identifies to who you are. Which is, I can't believe I need to spell this out. Like, didn't they watch the movies? Somebody that had to watch the movies. It's like, this is not me just nitpicking things. This is the core thing of this franchise. If you can get that right, then what puts any belief that you can get the rest?
I mean, again, though, you do have to come back to, if he was able to stop it then and there, what's the point of the show?
It's not the point of stopping it there and there. It's the point of, something. You don't put something like, oh, I don't need a title to prove myself as the Dragon Warrior, then do this, and then like, oh, he broke his arm. And for the record, I think good on him for actually managing to fight with just one arm, like go Poe, like it should be. But it just feels like the message of the movies is ignored. And if you're going to ignore if a spin-off is going to ignore the spirit of what it's based on, sorry, that's a big flaw.
I disagree with you again.
Well, what else is new? But okay, wow.
I disagree with you because I don't think it ignores the spirit. I think it's fine that he gets injured. Again, like, I think they acknowledge the spirit of it, and then he gets injured anyways, because it is just him using Kung Fu against a super magical, strong gauntlet glove that can destroy entire cities and towns. So it's not, I don't feel they do anything that is like super out there and goes against anything. It's just, he wasn't strong enough to stop it. And whether or not you think that, oh, they super nerfed Poe for this show or not, like, all of that aside, it works for what it is, right?
I'd very much debate that, because I get what you mean, but if they wanted to show me that, they should have done this another way. That's what I'm saying. A rewrite. Rewrite this, not the way it's done in the show.
Is there any suggestion you would make?
Yeah. How about maybe actually this actually blocking the gauntlet's power. Actually, Poe is not injured from it, but he's drained from it because this gauntlet is still very freaking powerful. Obviously, there will be some sort of effect. He manages to neutralize it, but because of that, he's very weak at the moment, and then maybe they can severely damage him. I'm
You,
not saying it's necessarily better, but it's something.
I
It's
will,
something.
I will
Again,
argue that's what they
I'm,
did because it could have been
I'm
way worse, but he walked away with just an injured arm. I will argue that's what they did already.
But okay, so my counterpoint is why is this glove still active and why we still have like a Fast and the Furious sled race afterwards with them? Like again, it's one of those. If what you were saying was the intended thing, then the other side should have suffered for this as well.
That's fair. It's fair, right? I don't think you're inherently wrong. I just disagree with you.
Which is fair. Like sometimes we can agree to disagree. And
I guess
this is
getting
just
to
one
like
part
the
of
very
that.
ending, what did you think of, the Emperor being a part of it all and it just being this big free for all of everyone trying to get what they want?
Honestly, I like the idea that it's. I like that. Like I like the idea that it's free for all. Like the Emperor wants the fire whip, the monkey wants the fire whip, Veruca wants the fire whip, and then we have Poe, Blade,
And
the
his dad.
crocodile who's handcuffed to Poe, and
Yeah, it's
Mr.
Wayman.
Ping.
Wayman is
Yeah,
also a character I enjoyed. I just loved how he's just there along for the ride while trying to still capture
mhm.
Poe
And then
desperately.
and then Mr. Ping, apparently Mr. Ping took place in sled races and he was the champion 3 years in a row. Okay. And like they have like I said, it's like this Fast and the Furious chase down a
It's
snowy
really
mountain
good.
on rail.
It's one of
Yeah,
those
no,
it's
that
one of
was
those really good
fun.
moments of the show, I thought. Like it felt
Yeah,
very Kung Fu Panda, I felt.
yeah, it was fun. Again, going back to a point I brought up, like I think it would have been better if it had the movie budget, but what can we do? This is nothing we can really change.
Hmm.
But after this, we have like this kind of free fall that didn't really want to end until it's like, oh, they are about to kill Blade and Poe jumps in to save her and Klaus and Garuda escape in a ship to England, and now apparently we are a team and we are gonna go stop them.
Yep. And I did love, like, a little mention. I loved seeing Poe use Wayman as a weapon and just hitting the Emperor,
Yeah,
and Rook Minnie using the Emperor as a shield, and them just hitting each other's bodies, and just
yeah, that's
that was very funny.
honestly, honestly. Let me tell you, if this franchise wasn't with animals, I think like PETA would be on DreamWorks' ass for this for the record. But thankfully, I mean, in their universe, it's not really a thing. But and there's also like this deer knight who I think I kind of like that his like horns are like swords.
Yeah,
I
that was
kind of
neat
like
too. Like
that,
he could take
but
his horns off and use them as
but
swords.
again, like is there Blade beats him, and then like him and the crocodile just stay in the snow and like, hey, what's
Yeah,
up?
like
And
in order to
stay
get the
again.
Emperor and Wayman out of the picture, they like Wayman's like, haha, I'm smart. I've grabbed on. I'm handcuffed to Poe, and I grabbed the Emperor, so now you can't use me to hit him anymore. And all of a sudden, that's where the tree that the knight's tied to shows up, and they just slam into him, and they're gone now.
Hmm.
And now it's just down to
And
Rookmini, Poe, and Blade, and the Louisels.
yeah,
Again,
and
there's
then
some
we
good
gonna
moments in
end
this
on
show.
this.
I think there's some
There
genuinely
are
funny
again
moments, and a few,
there are
not many, but
rays
a
of
few,
light.
like, really good emotional moments.
There are light moments which I just wish. And I guess anything else to say about this show before we gonna start talking about what we want season two, supposedly.
I mean, no, I think pretty much covered it all. You know, I think it'll be interesting seeing, like, we have our group forming. We have Rook Minnie, who's apparently going to help out our you know, team, who's a part of the team now, and Mr. Ping has joined the team
Yeah.
with Poe and Blade. So we're
Yeah.
building back up our Furious Five, I suppose, but differently.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
love how we have our stand-in Tigress, we have another monkey, we have Mr. Ping.
yeah. Hmm.
All we
And
need
I
now is
guess
a bug and a snake.
yeah, and no, we need a viper too, like you know, a crane.
Oh yeah, we need a crane.
We
We need a
yeah,
bird,
we
we
need a
need a
crane.
bug, we need some type of bug, we need a snake, and we need some type of bird to build up our group again. And we'll have the Furious Five, not quote unquote.
Yeah,
Oh no, we
the
already have a
little
bird. We
heroes.
have Mr. Ping. He's a bird. So we have our bird
Yeah,
already. We just
exactly.
need a
Yeah,
bug
actually, yeah.
and some
Actually,
type of
you know,
bug and
I
some type of
mentioned.
snake.
Yeah, actually, that's something I mentioned when we did the movies. That like one of my favorite jokes in Kung Fu Panda 3 was when you know Poe actually asks Mr. Ping, "Wait, you can fly?" And he tells him, "I'm a bird, Poe." And we actually do see Mr. Ping kind of fly in
Yeah,
some.
we see him, you know, glide.
Yeah, so that's something. Show's not terrible anymore. Mr. Ping fly.
I mean, the show has Mr. Ping in general, and James Hong makes everything better.
Hmm. So, if there's one thing I want to say, besides try and actually stick to the message of the movie, just you know, putting it out there, I think one thing I would actually want to say is that you know, well, obviously the villains ran away, so you know, we established that England is a place in this world,
And it seems like we're
and we
going
know
there
that
as well.
yeah, so I actually want to see what would England in Kung Fu Panda in the Kung Fu Panda universe would look like.
Yeah,
That's actually similar
I'll
this world.
admit, like,
Huh?
talking about that ending part of the show, like, that probably shot my interest up in a season 2 more, is the fact that, okay, we're going to explore more of the quote unquote Kung Fu Panda world, right? And see more
Hmm.
places that are run by animals. And I'll admit, I'm interested now. I'm more interested in what I would have been if you didn't give me that, right? If it would have just been a different part of China, I probably would have been like, eh. But since we're going to a
Yeah,
whole new country, I'm a little bit interested to see what you come up with and what you can do, because there's been some unique little things come up with in regards to the show, in regards to the movies and the other shows, as far as I'm aware, that, you know, were
yeah.
unique to Kung Fu Panda. And I'm curious to see what you do with that, because you have a whole new country to work with now. So I'll
Yeah.
admit, you've
So
piqued
I'm
my interest a little bit more than what you otherwise would have been able to achieve, just because of
so
that
like
one thing. I will
so
admit.
like there's this one interesting thing. Let's hope they won't budget.
Mm, fair.
Anything else about the Dragon Knight before we close?
No, I mean, again, like, I'm tentatively interested in season 2, as said, mostly because we might get to see something very new from Kung Fu Panda,
Hmm.
which I think is the best part of doing shows like this, is seeing very much new stuff, not trying to retread old ground we've been through already. So I'm
Indeed.
interested, but I will admit, like, the first season has not supremely impressed me and very much wowed me, right? I,
Hmm.
as said, seen much better shows with you know, first seasons. I've seen a
Indeed.
lot worse with first seasons. So
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
on the right track to hopefully
So
be something better, and I hope it can achieve that.
like if it can get better, I'd be all for it. But so far, let's hope. Let's hope. So I guess that's all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight? Did you like it? Dislike it? Looking forward to a season 2? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC.
And I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care and skadoosh.
Bye bye.